Hi, 1 week ago, I had never built a software tool, but within the past week, that's now changed. I created an e-commerce dashboard like Triple Whale with the help of the ChatGPT code interpreter. And here's 5 takeaways that I learned from it. So let's start off with what I ended up building. Here it is. It's a dashboard that shows data from Shopify, Facebook ads, Google Analytics, all pulled from their APIs, with additional calculations that are relevant for the store. I can change the date range that I'm looking at and quickly see the health of the store by looking at contribution margin or MER. It's not aesthetically where I would want it to be, but I was more focused on the core functionality of pulling and showing the data, so next steps can be to make it prettier. If you're more interested in learning how I actually built this, then I'll have a separate video out for that, and you can watch that there. But for this video, I'll just be talking about what I learned. So the first thing is more of a reminder that ChatGPT and Code Interpreter can 100x the speed that you learn. In a previous video, I created a simpler version of this dashboard, but built directly in Code Interpreter. But if the point of a dashboard is to be able to quickly access your data, then I don't want to have to constantly download reports from Shopify and Facebook ads just to put it into Code Interpreter and put in the prompts. Like, I just want that information immediately, kind of like what you would get with Triple Whale, where you can just log in and you see it right away. But building something like that seems daunting. It's like, how do I even start if I've never built software before? Well, with ChatGPT and Code Interpreter, I don't have to worry about that anymore. It'll answer all your questions, it'll explain concepts, identify errors, all without having to spend hours trying to Google the answer. And in this case, because a lot of the development required step-by-step instructions on how to do something, I actually kind of used a prompt, please provide detailed step-by-step instructions to blank. And this is because ChatGPT always, by default, give really general responses. But to get those detailed responses to tell me, what buttons I need to click and where I need to navigate to, by adding that prompt up front, it actually gave me the instructions I was looking for to help develop the app. So ChatGPT and Code Interpreter is a really great study buddy. The second takeaway is that Bubble is like Shopify, but for web apps. So I built this dashboard app entirely in Bubble, which is a popular no-code platform. And I used ChatGPT Code Interpreter as my guide. And I was actually really intimidated at first. Like, what's an API? How do I create a variable? But I was able to get past each one of those issues as I just simply asked ChatGPT what to do each time. And after using Bubble for this past week, it reminds me a lot of Shopify. It's like Bubble is to web apps what Shopify is to e-com stores. And I've been using Shopify for years to build out multiple e-com stores. And what I love about it is that you can build out the store with just a simple drag and drop interface. It's really easy to use. Well, Bubble has a similar drag and drop interface as well. And there's other similarities. So in Shopify, you have apps that extend functionality to your store. In Bubble, you have plugins. In Shopify, you have themes to get you a head start on building out the store. And in Bubble, you have templates. So in the end, Bubble is a really quick and easy way to get something off the ground. And I really do believe that with a month of time, anyone can create an amazing web app, even as a complete beginner. But my initial plan wasn't to use Bubble. I was going to actually use Python. But after just one day, I ended up switching over to Bubble. I'll explain why in a later takeaway, so stick around to the end if you're curious about that. The third takeaway that I learned was that our jobs are safe. There's a lot of talk about how AI will replace jobs, and for what it's worth, my take is that it will take away tasks, not jobs, which allows us to focus on outcomes and results. If you're in a job that is more task-driven, then you may need to adapt. But if we go back to the first takeaway, then we realize that it's going to still help us learn what we need to know. One way I like to think about ChatGPT is that it makes us more well-rounded. If we have weaknesses in a certain area, it can help cover for it. For example, I didn't know how to make software or code, but within a week, I built an app. So we can become quickly skilled at basically everything. And our baseline skill is a highly skilled jack of all trades. But if we want to be great at something, then there's a certain amount of specialization that needs to happen. And to do that, we have to add our own creativity on top of what we're using AI for. And this is why humans will always be part of the process. And that leads me to my takeaway number 4, which is AI and no-code tools can't do everything for us. Unfortunately, we can't just offload everything to AI, at least not yet. We still have to understand what's going on, and we need to know how to ask great questions. With where ChatGPT is right now, we just can't really build anything complex without actually understanding code. So I mentioned earlier why I ended up using Bubble instead of Python. I actually in the past have some exposure with programming. Like I've learned some very basic concepts like setting variables, if-then statements, loops, functions, and I've worked closely with programmers to develop software. So it's not a total black box to me. But I don't really know any programming languages. I don't know more advanced concepts, and I've never built anything myself. But with that previous exposure, I wanted to learn and build with Python. And ChatGPT was great if it was just solving a simple problem. But once it gets more complex, then it just wouldn't create perfect code in one shot. I was copying and pasting its newly generated code, but I'd still just get errors. And since I didn't understand what the code was, all I could do was just say, hey, this was what the error said, or this is the output that I wasn't getting. Can you fix it? And then it would come up with an idea, and I'd just copy and paste it. And I ended up just running around in circles. By the third or fourth time that I did this, it just took me right back to the same initial solution, and then the same second solution and the same third solution, and on and on and on. And that's why Bubble was so much more helpful. With its visual interface, I actually understood how each piece came together and interacted with one another. And whenever I did run into a problem that Code Interpreter couldn't immediately solve, I was able to recognize that maybe I need to just turn to Google or YouTube instead. And finally, the 5th takeaway is that no code is the future. Before, if we wanted to build anything on the internet, we needed to first learn dev skills or hire a dev team. Now with no code, we can skip a large part of that and directly bring our ideas to life, just like I did this past week. Even ChatGPT is the ultimate no-code tool. It brings AI to everyone. Our world is very much still driven by the internet, and in my opinion, both AI and web dev will still be part of the foreseeable future. And Bubble is an amazing way to build AI and web tools. Better tools will keep coming up, and so there's just never been a better time to be tinkering, building, whether that's a business or a web app or just anything in between. Thanks for watching this video. I hope it was helpful. Let me know in the comments below if you liked it or if there's anything else you would like to see. I'll be coming out with another video soon on how I actually built the dashboard, so stay tuned for that. Thanks and see you in the next one.